It's very exciting. There's math videos. And my daughter. So, we've learned about the sets of real numbers, right? We've learned that a whole number is also an integer, it's also rational, it's also real. Let's go into ordering real numbers. Now, to order a real number, what it means is, the simplest way I can say this is convert everything to a decimal. Convert every number. So if I've got a bunch of numbers, and they're out of order, I'm going to convert them all to decimals, and then I'll figure out how the numbers line up. Pay attention to negatives. As you're doing your conversion, don't drop negatives on the floor. They stay with the number. I've seen that a lot, where they just take the number and strip off the negative, and a couple of you did that with yesterday's exercise. You just drop the negative and it disappears and goes away. So we'll do it. So let's look at our notes here. So a number, multiply it by itself is called a square. And we've been doing that, right? We've got a square key on the calculator. Huh? A perfect square is something else.
Like 4.
Oh, it's something that 2 times 2.
A perfect square, we're talking about a square root like the square root of 4.
Yep, 4.
It's perfect because it's 2.
Yep.
2 times 2 is 4. So the square root of 4 is a perfect square.
Hold on, would 6 be the same thing? Because 2 times 2 times 2.
No. 2 times 2 times 2 is not 6, it's 8.
That's my bad, sorry.
So, finding a square root of a number is the inverse operation. And I've been holding up those cards. So if I say 2 squared, what's 2 squared?
2, that's 4.
2 times 2 is 4. If I say square root of 4, you're figuring out that the number that multiplied by itself equaled 4, which is 2. So if you're doing the square root of 100, what number times itself equals 100?
9. 10. It's 9.
10.
Oh, 10.
10 times 10 equals 100. So the square root of 100 is 10. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I ate salad for lunch, so I'm really nervous that I've got like lettuce stuck in my teeth and I'm overly... Now she does it too.
I had salad for lunch.
Okay, so every number has 2 square roots, a positive and a negative square root. If you think about that, what's negative 2 times negative 2?
Positive 4.
Positive 4. What's 2 times 2?
4.
So the square root of 4 could be negative 2 or 2. Now generally, so if the question asks what are the 2 square roots of a number, that means both the positive and the negative. If it asks just what's the square root, then we usually are talking about the primary or the principal square root, right? This principal square root is the positive number. If I tell you the area of a square garden is the square root of 4 feet. To get area, it's length times width, right?
Yes.
Square garden, the area is square root of 4.
So it'd be 2.
So, 2 times 2.
It's a square, so it'd be 2.
We break it apart. Does that make sense?
So easy.
And bad example, but it works. So the principal square root is always that positive number. Usually when we have a square, we find a square root, we want the positive number. In very rare cases, we'll want the negative number. Generally, they say it by sticking. If they want to say the negative number, what they'll do is they'll write negative square root of 4. Okay, I'm not sure who's doing what. And that equals, what's the square root of 4?
2. So
And then I just add the negative sign. So they're telling me they want the negative of the square root.
So
Otherwise, they want the principal square root, which is
positive.
the positive number. Okay, does that make sense?
Yes.
So a perfect square has integers as square roots, and in fact, they're written there from 1 to 10. You guys should know from 1 to 12 by heart. That's on my flashcards. The square root of 144 is?
12.
Square root of 121 is?
11.
Square root of 100?
10.
Square root of 81?
9.
Square root of 64?
8.
Square root of 49?
7.
Square root of 36?
6.
Square root of 25?
5.
Square root of 16?
4.
Square root of 9?
3.
3? Square root of 4?
2.
Square root of 1?
1.
Those you should know. You should know through the 12s. And the reason I say that is in life and in math. Let's just attack math right now. I had tech apps class earlier today. They were upset. We have to do math. It's tech apps. But math is really in everything. And that tech apps class, they're learning how to program robots, but they can use that math to make the robot do their diabolical plans perfectly. She's like thinking, Alea's thinking diabolical now. And we want to do that. You want it perfect, right? Math is used everywhere. You guys use math all the time. You just don't realize you're using it. As you guys go through high school and into college, so many questions that involve square roots are going to be one of those 12. The first, all the way from 1 to 144. They're going to be those. Because it's easy for the people giving the test. So much of that is common. You should recognize it by sight. Does that make sense? And if you can do that, so many questions get stupidly easy because your mind says square root of 144, well, that's 12. I know that. I don't have to think about that. Now, hopefully that was your feet. Otherwise, I'm going to kick you out of class. No. Okay. So, I've got some numbers here, and we're going to go through them together today. Actually, I'll have you do in your groups. So it says, find the 2 square roots of each number. So, the 2 square roots. I'll tell you what, we'll do it together, okay?
We can do it as a group.
That's fine.
Can we try it as a group first?
Yes. So 2 square roots, which means you're putting 64, the square root of 64, which we just said a moment ago, right? It has the principal square root and the negative opposite. So there's 2 square roots. All right, in your groups, go ABC. There's 3 of you. So the first person explain the other 2 what you're doing.
Go.
And I'll go with you.
Good job. But it says 2 square roots.
Talk to me about that first. So,
Good job. Do you like the down? Where the 2 square?
So what's the square root of 64?
So how to do this one? So
That's like
I got it. I guess we do it on the. It is point
That's fine.
Control. The radical sign, which is x squared, but
Yeah.
8 and no.
I know B.
8 is the opposite.
Wait, this is what Chris doing.
Okay, remember, we're looking. 8 is the principal square root, right? It's the positive root.
You do it.
Look here.
Oh,
Remember, there's also a negative root.
What is it?
So the square root of 4 is 2 or negative 2. The square root of 8
did
is
do
8 or
Yeah. Okay.
yeah, it's
What's the opposite of 8? That's it.
Wait, hon.
Caitlin, are you
Y'all
zero?
can still figure it out.
I
A number
think
of
I
A,
might.
is it
Okay.
8 or negative 8?
So,
You do the
And-
positive
How do I
and
do the
the fraction.
Yeah.
You don't need calculator.
can you give these numbers? Do the
So
first
B
one.
is 10 and
That's
that's
the square root of 1. Over
You do the John.
Divided by
the square root of 9.
Oh, it pushed the wrong button. Stay.
No. Don't put the bottom yet.
Why did you get something
What's the
different?
square root of 9?
Why did you get something different?
No. Now you're working ahead of me. It's 9. What's the square root of 9?
so have your name
What number times itself equals 9? 9 times 9 is 81.
What did y'all get? Asleep.
No. Number times itself.
Wait,
Control x squared 9.
Hi, Caitlin. I'm from A.
Hope they won. Do
No.
really hope they do.
There's 3. So you've got a positive 1, 9, and a negative 1.
They're gonna win.
That's it.
So what are you doing? I'm talking to the camera.
So what is it, John?
Crystal, who's gonna win tonight's one?
So I'm watching.
Oh, that's a bad thing.
Are y'all blocking them?
Did we explain our answers?
No, you did. You said you said 8, negative 8. That's
All
what you
right.
said.
Shh.
We're not done.
All right.
We are done.
We'll see. So
John
let.
didn't even do
Bring it in. Bring it in, John.
There.
Bring it in.
May I move to a different day, please?
He worked
Not
on
yet.
it on himself.
Okay, so let's look at this first one. So it says find the principal. So I'm going to make that into a square root sign. So I know it. The square root of 64. What's the principal square root or the positive version? 8. And negative 8. So 8 or negative 8. That's the 2 square roots of 64. So far, so good?
Yeah.
Again, I'm going to put my square root over 100 here. 10 or negative 10. Now, I can square root over 1/9, just like that.
I know.
When you do that, remember you're doing the top. So what's the square root of 1? 1. And what's the square root of 9? 3. So 1/3 or
0.3.
negative 1/3.
Could you put it in a decimal?
I'm not going to.
Alright.
It didn't ask for it. I'm giving it the so both the positive and its opposite. Does that make sense? Any questions on that? Wesley?
No, sir.
Okay. So a square garden, let's look at this one. A square garden has an area of 144 square feet. How long is each side?
12.
So 144 square feet. To figure out sides, because this was a square garden, they used the side times side, right? So I'm going to put square root. What's the square root of 144?
12.
Would negative 12 be used here?
No.
Can you have a garden with negative 12 as the side length?
No.
Not unless you're in the upside down.
Or you're digging underground.
No, even then. Huh? Okay, so let's talk about ordering real numbers. When you've got numbers and they're all kinds of types, they're decimals, they're fractions, they're squares, they're square roots, whatever, convert them to a decimal. Then put them in order. So convert them to decimal, then put them in order. So let's do this one together, and then I'll let you guys talk through the other two. So this, I've got 2, right? Well, that's easy. The decimal for 2 is 2, right?
Yeah.
What's the square root of 2 divided by 2?
1.
Use your calculator. Square root of 2. Now, when you type in square root of 2, remember to hit the right arrow to get out of it before you hit divide by. Otherwise, your square root is the radical sign. Control in the x. X squared.
Yeah.
See above the x squared, there's the radical sign.
And then what?
I got it.
1.4, 1.4.
So, control
And then the
X squared.
and then the x squared. But remember, when you type in that 2, that square root of 2, hit the right arrow to get out of the square root function and then divide by 2.
Wait, what?
Oh, I did it wrong.
And you'll know if you did it wrong or you did it right because it'll show you exactly what you want, which is the square root of 2
Is it this
over
root?
2.
I got 1.
Is this it?
You got
arrow.
wrong.
Okay.
What? How do you do
You
it?
didn't write arrow. Let's see what you got.
Is this the arrow right here?
Okay, type in 2 and right arrow.
How's the
Now
arrow?
type in divide by 2.
And then in there? 1.
So that looks exactly like it's done there,
I
right?
did 1.
Yeah, I
That's,
did
I did wrong.
Mine says arrow Q R
Square root. I got 2 divided by 2.
You get a real long number like
Out of the square root and divide by 2.
Help me out. That hurt me for real.
Wait, how do you do it?
What are you doing?
So, divide by 2.
No, my
Space.
7.071.
Okay, so when you do that, before you do the other no, go on.
Let's do square root.
Bam, I got the first one.
Just come at me.
How do you do it?
Control square.
The right arrow to get out of the square root function. Now divide by 2.
Yep.
And you do 2, and then you press the right arrow,
Okay, you got
then
it.
divide it by 2.
Oh.
You'll know you got it right if you look in the display window and it shows. Now you didn't do it right. Does that look like? Where's your paper? Okay, does that look like that?
Wait, hold on.
Square. You have to
I knew it was 2.
I thought you touched it.
So, 2.
You have
So
to.
type square root
You
of
have
2.
to. Oh, I thought you
So,
did control.
space
Okay,
and
and
then
then you
divide by
press
2.
it. Yeah.
Like that?
And then no.
Okay.
Oh,
I got it.
No, 2.
Ouch, that hurt.
And then hit the right arrow to get out of the square root function. Now type divide by 2.
what?
I got
Does
it.
that look like that? Here.
Yes.
So that gives you that right. Okay, you guys get it?
Yes.
Yes, I
Is
did.
this right?
Where did you
Yep. No. How did you get?
I don't know.
Oh,
It just been doing that.
oh, somebody's got your set on this phone.
Oh.
So your document settings are on Xbox.
Wait, I have a better
Right there, see? That's How they get it scientific.
That's so good.
Monday.
That is so good.
Because it's been doing that since like we've done like.
Now you know how to fix it, right?
I'm
Do it
hoping
again.
if it's about paid.
You guys all good?
I
So, shh. Lane, focus on this. So, I'm going to only carry it out to like 2 decimal places. If for some reason I need to go farther, what I'll do is go back to calculator. So, square root of 2 divided by 2. What'd you get, Caitlin?
0.70710.
70. And I'm just going to leave it right there. And then I've got negative 10, right? I didn't have to do any work. So I'm ordering them, again, go back and read the question. I'm ordering the numbers from least to greatest. So the smallest number on the left to the largest number on the right. Which of these is the smallest number?
Negative 10.
Negative 10. What's the next one?
707.
So the square root of 2 over 2. Okay, Wesley, put the animal down because it's distracting you and you're not even following along. Write what we have. And the last number is 2. All right, so at your tables, do B and C. Put them in order. Talk through them.
Okay, so guys,
I got this.
I got it. So basically, we don't have to even do.
I'm not sure what you have here, but you weren't even following me.
It's 8 4.
Negative
That question.
4 and then
I got a
The
mountain
8
dew.
equals 4 because that
Okay.
is
So let's talk about it.
So what did you get, Will?
How would I put these?
2 times 2. I already
I'd write the
did
decimals, right? So what's the square root of 8?
280.
on
2.8.
the square root of 8 is
Okay,
I'm gonna write this down.
Okay.
I got like 2.8.
You hate calculator, I see that.
And then this would be negative 4. And
And that one's
Get over it.
then on 2 I got negative 4. On negative 4 is negative 4. And then
So 2.86. So right above that, right? 2.82. So for some reason later on you open this order that is like different. There's 2.82s, then you go to 3.
I got what she got.
Negative 14, don't drop the negative.
Which one would be least?
2 divided by 3.
You don't have to. Is there one of those things in there?
Not yelling. Not hostile.
See, this is what I need to prove.
She's correct. No, there's not.
So Will, would
So,
Wait, what's
0.66.
that again?
9.6.
So which one of those numbers is the smallest?
I got
Are you for real?
So the order.
You just gonna go
Negative.
out.
So right there, first column. And then which one's next? So it's the 2 thirds,
So
right?
it would be
And you need to write it as they gave it.
square root of 1, then 5, then
But
7.
you'll put 2 over 3 on that one.
Oh, happy
Put 2 over 3. And
Okay,
then,
fine, you're right. Okay, we will put it in order. Negative 4.
yeah, which is,
So we were right or she was right?
Remember, you only need
You
2
was right.
decimal places. 1.66.
okay.
There's
I'll go next now.
Right now,
That's so
using it to cite things first.
Is that a fact, huh?
Wait,
Just
negative.
use it to cite things first.
Very rude to call this.
Okay. Okay, let's do this. No, it's fine. So 7, straight up. What's pi? So right above it, just, and, okay, you're in square root. Sorry, you're faster than me. Go on.
So the least one would be
Oh, no, you've got it.
second,
Let's see what's first.
wait, square root of 3.
Okay, so which
Okay,
one's
so it's
first?
negative 4, then 0.6,
The square root of 3.
yeah.
And then,
That's right.
2.8.
And then,
Wait, we get to leave early.
Okay,
Not really.
so what do we have now is 7.
and then
Oh, we have band experience?
yeah, you're on the right piece. All right.
Hey. We're almost
Chris, I
done.
would have recommended this side.
Okay.
okay, it's 3,
Oh.
it's pi after,
Okay, those of you doing other things, John.
I was one more.
No, you weren't. You were slapping hands with Chris.
We didn't stop now.
Okay, whatever.
We got
That's the same thing.
Okay. Let's look at B. So, square root of 8, what is the decimal equivalent for the square root of this? 2.82. Remember, I'm just using these to estimate, right?
Yes.
Negative 4 is itself, we don't have, what's 2/3?
0.6 repeating.
So 0.66. So which one is the smallest number?
-4.
What do you got, Will?
-4.
Okay, -4. Then what's next, Will?
0.66.
So 2/3, right? Remember, you got to put them back in the order or in the number format they gave them. And what's the last one?
And then 8 squared.
All right, that was pretty straight up. Let's look at C. So 7 is itself. John.
What? I was asking her what was owling about.
Okay, focus on this. Focus on this.
Okay.
So what's pi decimal wise?
3.14.
15926.
Very good.
Okay.
I should relocate the pi sign, I guess.
I memorized most of it.
Okay, so what's the square root of 3 in decimals? What you got, Lane?
1.73.
1.73. Remember, if you're writing these down, we don't have to round up because we're just using these numbers to establish order. If for some reason you need to go third digit, then go out there. So which one of these is the smallest?
7.
Square root of 3.
The square root of 3. Because it's 1.73, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And the next one, Gavin?
Pi.
Pi. I love pi.
Me too.
You guys are in my math class, so March 14th is going to be a good day. That's 3.14. That's pi day.
Oh, son of a gun, I forgot. We gotta write it together.
And then
We
the
get pie.
I'll buy pie. Yes, I buy pie every year on
You
pi
buy
day.
cheese sticks.
Yes.
So
That's one.
let's do one. Let's do one more function, and this is a common one, and they want to find out which is greater. Is it greater than, less than, or equal to? So I've got two numbers. I've got 3 plus the square root of 3, and I got to make a decision. Is it greater than, less than, or equal to square root of 7 minus 3? So using your calculators, type 3 plus and the square root of 3, and find out what the number is.
3 plus square root of 3.
That's what it says. 3 plus the square root sheet. Look at your sheet.
It's 1.73.
Whoa, where did you come up with that?
Shh. Don't blurt. Don't be a blurter.
Oh, I
got the
negative.
So 3 plus the square root of 3, which is what you left
I
off.
did divide instead of plus.
Okay. So 3 plus the square root of 3.
Oh.
What'd you get, Reed?
8.
Yes.
4.73. Yes.
4 point. I can't hear you.
7.3.
7.3. Okay. Now we've got square root of 7 minus 3. Are you ahead of that? Just let everyone figure it out. Square root of 7 minus 3. Go ahead, Chris.
It's 2.
What?
I got 2.
That's really sad.
I got 2 too.
I think I know.
Oh, I know.
Because you did square root of 7 minus 3, but you didn't get out of the square root.
Didn't get
Oh, that's
space.
Make sure you're looking at that calculator and it looks like this. If you see something that looks like this,
That's why.
then you failed to jump out. This is not what you want.
Oh.
And I got it.
All right, Chris, what you got now?
Negative 0.35.
Yeah.
Okay, so which one of those is bigger? Left or right? Or are they the same?
Right. I mean, left. They're nothing different.
So the left is greater than the right. Ooh. Easy enough?
Yes.
Ordering real numbers is really just about taking them to a common, and decimal is the best common function, unless you want to find the fraction of a square root, which sounds painful. Ellen is making a yucky face on that one. We'll just go to decimals because the calculator puts it there. And that makes us happier, right?
Yes.
All right, any questions on this?
No.
Okay, we're ending recording.